Imagine you're at a baseball game. It's a beautiful summer day when you notice far off in the sky, there's something unusual. As it gets closer, you can see it's a drone, but there's something attached to the bottom of it. You don't know it yet, but you are about to be in a terror attack. This weaponized drone, no stadium security, no local police, and no state authorities could even try to shoot it down until it begins attacking the crowd. It could be illegal for them too. But let's just back up here a second really quick. Drones are everywhere. What 15 years ago was a remarkable technology, you can now buy one cheaper than a celebrity smoothie. Also, commanders say that drones now cause around 70% of all casualties in the war between Ukraine and Russia. They now kill more infantry and destroy more armored vehicles in Ukraine than all other traditional weapons combined. They're the future of war, and their technology is rapidly becoming deadlier. Last month, you probably saw Ukraine's drone attack on Russia. Some are calling Russia's Pearl Harbor. Similarly, Israel attacked Iran with drones that were assembled in the enemy country, and China just unveiled this mega drone that carries 100 smaller drones. So usually when I film these segments, I use the self-facing camera on my cell phone. I've actually bought a drone that will follow you because I'm staying on theme here. So with this cheap, commercially available tech becoming increasingly available, say for potential bad actors to maybe turn into a hypothetical weapon, there's an outdated legal framework preventing your local or state government from interfering with drones to protect critical infrastructure or public spaces in case of such an attack. And I don't say hypothetical attack because there's already been stateside attempts. In November, a man was arrested for allegedly planning to attack Nashville's power grid using a drone carrying an explosive device. And in May, a Michigan man was arrested for flying his drone over a military base for what the Department of Justice described as reconnaissance for a planned mass shooting on the behalf of ISIS. Also, remember New Jersey last year, when people en masse reported unidentified drones all over. So that event, there's still more questions than answers there, but that episode, it made a lot of lawmakers realize that they're basically powerless against an onslaught of drones.
We're not prepared for this today. The very law of the land says if I were to take down a drone that's not my own, even if it's flying over my swimming pool, that's spying on my children or something, I am the bad guy. I am committing a terrorist attack. You're supposed to let that drone fly wherever it wants to go, completely unabated.
This is Andy. He's the CEO of Epirus, a company focused on creating counter-drone technology. If you're in the biz, you call drones unmanned aircraft systems, or UAS. Epirus creates CUAS, or in the biz, counter unmanned aircraft systems. Epirus also has all these sick-ass animations of their products. So before we get into the legal shit show that makes it way too difficult to protect you from a super murder drone, let's talk about how you counter these attacks. There's two types of counter-drone systems, kinetic and non-kinetic.
Kinetic weapons are physical. They're bombs. They're missiles. They're weaponized drones.
So basically, kinetic weapons detect incoming drones and physically destroy them.
Non-kinetic weapons are things that use technologies like microwaves or lasers or things that don't have a physical form.
So non-kinetic weapons detect incoming drones and either fry or debilitate the drone's electronics with directed high energy. Also in this category is jamming radio frequencies, disrupting satellite guidance signals, or straight up just hacking into the drone. So you have this awesome array of ways to massacre drones, and to be honest, I would love to see it in real life. But here's the problem. Say I'm hanging out in my buddy's backyard and he's flying his new $20 drone from Amazon. After a few drinks, if I chuck my beer bottle and down that drone, I potentially violated federal law. It is illegal to interfere with any drone. 18 U.S. Code, Section 32, destruction of aircraft. the U.S. legal term for an aircraft has basically not changed for a little under 100 years, making anything you fly or navigate in the sky legally an aircraft. And interfering with the operation of any aircraft, including a drone, can carry a federal prison sentence up to 20 years. And the counter-drone system operator could be held responsible if the falling debris injures any people or damages any property. So I could only find one time that the government actually enforced this law. Last year, Wendell Goney was sentenced to 4 years in prison when he shot down a police drone with a rifle. You won't be surprised, this took place in Florida. But even just this law existing makes it completely impossible, even with its scant enforcement, of employing any type of kinetic counter-drone system. Non-kinetic counter-drone systems could also potentially violate multiple federal laws. Jamming or microwaves could potentially disrupt other legitimate signals used by, like, emergency responders or air traffic control. And even hacking into a drone could potentially violate the Pen Trap Statute, the Wiretap Act, the Aircraft Sabotage Act, and the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Only the Department of Defense, Energy, Homeland Security, and the Federal Aviation Administration have the explicit authorization to use counter-drone systems. Going back to the stadium scenario, the only way to down that weaponized drone is for one of these departments or agencies to be on site at the time, which isn't like a thing. And deploying counter-drone systems privately will quickly get you in legal hot water. But at the federal and state level, people are starting to notice that there needs to be some legal framework for dealing with this. So those mysterious drones over New Jersey led the Senate to bring bipartisan drone security legislation to the Senate floor, but it got blocked by Rand Paul in the most Rand Paul way.
We do not trade away our freedoms, our privacy, and our constitutional protections for vague promises of security. I will object to this bill today.
I do understand what he's saying here. Not every random drone flying around, kind of like this one right here, is necessarily a threat and needs the constant monitoring from authorities. The government could potentially misuse counter-drone systems for surveillance.
But with the very rapid and recent rise of drones being used in international conflicts, people have started to reassess that thinking. In June of this year, President Trump signed an executive order to establish a federal task force to review drone threats and recommend solutions, in addition to directing the FAA to propose and finalize rules restricting drone flights over critical infrastructure and sensitive sites. But crucially, this order can't create new laws, which again would be on Congress, and it doesn't give state or local authorities any rights to disrupt or take down a drone. Their ability to prevent an attack is, well, the same.
So these experts that I talked to, they expressed that they are hopeful there will be a change and that change will come soon. But it's been expressed by multiple people. There is one way policy could change very quick, and it's the most likely way.
When we talk FAA, when we talk FCC, a lot of times you have to drive it all the way to, unfortunately, loss of life for them to make a move. And I mean, it's a little bit awkward to say even, but the FAA is in the business of not changing things that they don't see as broken. We're hopeful that the FAA actually sees this coming and sees the potential for domestic terrorist activities. And instead of waiting for something to actually happen on stateside soil, they step out ahead and they actually get out ahead of it before we have a problem.
I sincerely hope this country can produce a policy change, a modern legal framework to help protect its citizens from a weaponized terror drone attack. Weaponized drones are going to come to the United States, and you're either going to be prepared or not. Once that paradigm is shifted, it never goes back.